In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. So a man buys a piece of land, and he builds a beautiful big house on it. And he's so proud of his house. And then he gets busy, and he builds a garden, and he manicures and landscapes the lawn. He has the greenest lawn in the neighborhood, and the most beautiful flowers, the most beautiful roses, and the most fragrant roses of all the fragrant roses there could ever be. And he takes such great pride. Every day he goes out from his house, out into the garden, and takes little shears and trims the grass. And if a weed even thinks about growing, he's out there, killing it and pruning the roses and all of the flowers and doing everything just day after day, year after year. He's out there just working. And he's so proud of everything. But one day he's out there working in his yard and his gardens, and he hears a creak and a crack, and he turns around and he looks at his house, and it just tumbles in on itself. He had been having mole problems year after year, and he'd been fighting the moles. And he just was so frustrated. He got all kinds of traps and poisons and everything he could do to try to get rid of those moles. But yet what he wasn't paying attention to was the termites that was eating up the house. Enemies can come from outside, and enemies can come from within. In Luke chapter 9, I'm going to step back a little bit because we're in chapter 13. A couple weeks ago or so, we had on the last Sunday of Epiphany, we heard the story of the transfiguration of Jesus on the mountain in Luke chapter 9. And as we know the story, that Moses and Elijah show up, and they're talking to Jesus. And in the Gospel of Luke, it says that Jesus was discussing with Moses and Elijah his trip to Jerusalem and what he was going to accomplish in the city of Jerusalem, his death and his resurrection. And then it says later on, when he came down off of the mountain from the transfiguration, that he set his face towards Jerusalem. That he was determined that nothing was going to divert him. He was going to Jerusalem. Now, it's going to take him a while to get there, and he's going to do some teaching and some healings along the way. But he is determined to go to Jerusalem to die on the cross and to be resurrected. He was not going to be deterred from his mission. And yet it was when he had his face set towards Jerusalem and he was not there, that some Pharisees came to him to warn him that Herod was out with spies and soldiers and everything looking to capture him and to kill him. And I find it interesting that and throughout the Gospels, we think of the Pharisees as being enemies of Jesus, and yet here's some that actually want to warn Jesus. So not all of the Pharisees were against Jesus. Nicodemus, for one, but they kind of all did it a little bit in secret because they didn't want the rest of their Pharisee buddies to give them a hard time or think that they were followers of Jesus and kill them as well. So Jesus responds by calling Herod a fox, and then he says that a prophet can't be killed outside of Jerusalem. And so in a sense he's telling these Pharisees, don't worry about the fox outside of the chicken coop. Worry about the enemies that are inside of the chicken coop, the nasty roosters or the hawks that Earl's always having problems with, that gets the chickens. And so, no, don't worry about the enemies on the outside, worry about the enemies that can be on the inside. And then Jesus, we have this famous, or what I call famous, Jesus analogy of him being this mother hen. And he says, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, how much I wanted to gather you all up as a mother hen would gather his chicks up underneath the wings. Don't do it right now, but if you Google mother hens and chicks under wings, you see all kinds of pictures of mother hens with their wings all spread out and surrounding the chicks, and you see little heads poking out from underneath the wings. They're cute. It's kind of like cute cat pictures on the internet. So he's talking about, I don't worry about what's outside of Jerusalem. I'm worried about what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen when I get inside of Jerusalem. And so Jesus is not just, he talks about killing the prophets. And Jesus is not just a rabbi, and he's not just the Messiah. He's also a prophet. When I took the general ordination examination in January of 2004, one of the questions that I was asked in the Bible section was, how is Jesus a prophet in the Gospel of Luke? How is Jesus portrayed as a prophet in the Gospel of Luke? And I don't remember what the answer was. I've slept a few times. But it's important to note that Luke sees Jesus as many different things, but he sees him as a prophet. And prophets do get killed in Jerusalem. There's a long history of that. Then I want to shift over and talk about Paul and Philippi, because there's a theme here. That Philippi is a church that is being persecuted by the pagans and those who make money off of all of these Roman and Greek gods. And so they don't like it when Paul comes in and tells everybody that they ought to be worshiping this one God, and that there ought not to be an image made of this one God, because that's going to put the image makers out of business. And so he's got problems outside of the church. But he's more focused on the problems that he's got inside of the church. That he's got people that are coming in with all kinds of different beliefs that they want to bring into the church and put on to Christ and to Christianity. And so Paul's saying, no, I'm an apostle of Jesus Christ. I've gotten my instructions from Jesus. And so I am an imitator of Jesus Christ, and therefore be an imitator of me. A lot of times I would say to you, do as I say, not as I do, because I consider myself as big a sinner as you are a lot of times. But yet, Paul feels that he's in a position where he is imitating Christ, and therefore, if you have no other example to follow what I do, and then you will be following Christ. And Paul tries to teach, love, preach the gospel and salvation of Jesus Christ. So he's telling the church to be unified in the way that they are in their faith in Jesus Christ. In a way, we have to keep an eye on the moles that are outside of the church that dig into our faith. But yet we also have to be aware of the termites that are inside, that are eating away slowly, that we don't even see them. They just chew away in silence. Lent is a time, I think, to do a termite inspection. Not only of our lives outside of the church, but our lives maybe inside of the church. How are we leading the church? How are we being an example to people outside of the church? What do we as a church need to think about changing and reflecting on the changes we may need to make in order that when a newcomer comes in, somebody gets brave enough to walk into our door on a Sunday, that we can be inviting for them and welcoming for them and incorporate them into the Episcopal faith and into our understanding and our following of Jesus Christ. But then in our own lives, what are the termites that are eating away at us on the inside? What are the behaviors that we have that aren't necessarily benefiting us in our walk with Jesus Christ? So we need to live the same life inside the church as we live outside the church, and so that there's so many people out there that when they hear the name Christian, the next word out of their mouth is hypocrite. And it's not just enough for us to come in here and be saints on Sunday, and sinners on Monday. We have to be saints on Sunday and saints on Monday as well. Amen.
Amen.